The human officer's name was Daniel Cross, and he had learned long ago that silence could be louder than weapons. He stood alone in his assigned room aboard the orbital station Vierx 9, a massive structure built jointly by humans and the Kalari species. The room was simple by human standards. A narrow bed fixed to the wall, a metal desk, a storage locker, and a single wide viewport showing the curve of a blue-green planet below. Daniel had just returned from a long shift of inspections and reports. His uniform jacket was folded neatly on the chair. His boots were aligned by the door. He valued order. It helped him think. The alliance with the Kalari was fragile. They were tall, graceful beings with smooth, pale skin and dark, expressive eyes. Their culture was old and complex, filled with rituals humans were still struggling to understand. Daniel had been selected for this post because of his calm nature. He did not panic easily. He did not react before thinking. That was important here. He was halfway through reviewing a data pad when the door slid open without warning. Daniel looked up instantly, his body tensing, his hand moving slightly toward the emergency control on the wall. But he stopped himself when he saw who had entered. It was a Kalari woman. She was not wearing clothing in the way humans understood it. To Daniel, she appeared naked, her pale skin marked with faint silver lines that glowed softly under the room lights. Her long hair flowed freely down her back. She stood straight, calm, and completely unafraid. She smiled, not a shy smile, not an uncertain one, a confident smile. She stepped inside and let the door close behind her. Her dark eyes moved around the room, then settled on the bed. She walked toward it, placed a hand on the frame, and turned back to Daniel. "This sleeping place," she said in careful but clear human standard, "is now mine." For a moment, Daniel did nothing. His heart was beating fast, but his face remained calm. Years of training held his reactions in check. He had faced armed enemies, depressurized hulls, and hostile negotiations. This was different, but panic would solve nothing. He slowly stood up, keeping his hands visible, his posture relaxed. "There seems to be a misunderstanding," Daniel said evenly. "This is my assigned quarters." The Kalari woman tilted her head slightly, studying him. Her smile did not fade. "No misunderstanding," she replied. "I have been sent. This space is claimed." Daniel glanced at the door panel. No alarms, no warnings. That meant she had authorization to enter, high-level authorization. This was not an accident. He took a slow breath. "May I ask your name?" he said. "I am Saria of the Ninth Line," she answered. "Envoy Observer, Observer." That word settled heavily in Daniel's mind. "I see," he said. "Then perhaps you should know that in human culture, entering someone's private space without notice is considered alarming." Saria stepped closer, stopping a short distance away. She did not seem concerned by his words. "In Kalari culture," she said, "private space is a test." Daniel met her gaze, careful not to stare. He nodded once. "Then I'm guessing this is not about sleeping arrangements." Her eyes flickered with interest. "You guess correctly." Daniel considered his options. Demanding she leave could be seen as aggression. Leaving himself could be interpreted as weakness. Calling security might insult the Kalari leadership. So he chose another path. "If this bed is important to you," he said calmly, "we can discuss shared use of the room according to mutual respect." Saria's smile changed. It became sharper, more curious. "You do not shout," she observed. "You do not threaten, many would." "I've learned that reacting without understanding usually causes more damage," Daniel replied. For several seconds she said nothing. The room felt very quiet. Daniel became aware that he was being watched, not just by her. Somewhere behind walls and cameras, others were likely observing every movement, every word. Finally, Saria sat down on the edge of the bed. Her posture was relaxed, unguarded. "Sit," she said, gesturing to the chair. Daniel hesitated only a moment before complying. Saria folded her hands in her lap. "This is a judgment," Daniel nodded slowly. "I suspected." Our people have been betrayed before, she continued. Strong species, loud species, they desire control. They take what they want when given access. We test allies in private where masks fall away. And what happens if they fail? Daniel asked. They are never trusted again. Daniel let that sink in. So walking into my room like this was meant to provoke. Yes, Saria said openly. Fear, desire, anger, possession. And my response, he asked. She studied him carefully. Uncertain, controlled, respectful. She stood again and walked to the viewport, looking out at the planet below. You humans confuse us, she said. Your history is filled with war, yet individuals like you show restraint. Daniel leaned back slightly. We are capable of terrible things, he said. That's why we build rules, not because we are weak, but because we are strong enough to need them. Saria turned to face him, her expression serious now. Some among my people believe humans cannot be trusted with power, she said. Others believe you may be the only ones who should. A soft chime sounded from Daniel's wrist communicator. He glanced down. A security alert flashed briefly, then disappeared. He understood the message clearly. This was deliberate, authorized, observed. He looked back up. What happens now? Saria stepped closer, stopping at a respectful distance. Now, she said, I remain here. We observe each other. You will not touch without invitation. You will not order me. You will not abandon the space. And if I refuse, Daniel asked, then the alliance fractures, she replied calmly, and others less patient than I will decide your species' worth. Daniel exhaled slowly. Then we share the room, he said, as equals. With boundaries, Saria inclined her head slightly. Accepted. She moved to the far side of the room and activated a Kelari energy field, forming a resting platform separate from the bed. The glow was soft, contained. You prepared for this? Daniel asked. She allowed a small smile. We prepare for many outcomes. Time passed slowly after that. They spoke little. Daniel returned to his data pad. Saria stood silently, observing human objects with quiet interest. Hours later, station lights dimmed to night cycle levels. Daniel rose and removed his boots, placing them neatly by the bed. He paused, then looked at Saria. I will rest, he said, if that is acceptable. It is, she replied. He lay down, fully clothed, hands folded across his chest. His muscles remained tense for a long time, but exhaustion eventually took hold. As he drifted towards sleep, he was aware of Saria watching him, not with hunger or threat, but with focused attention. She was measuring something deeper than behavior. She was measuring restraint. Somewhere beyond the walls, Kelari elders watched their screens in silence. For the first time since humans had entered galactic space, the observers did not see chaos. They saw control. And that unsettled them more than violence ever had. The station moved into its artificial morning cycle without sound. Lights slowly brightened from soft blue to white. Daniel woke before the cycle completed, as he always did. His eyes opened calmly, his breathing steady. For a few seconds he did not move. He listened. The room was quiet. Saria stood near the viewport, her back to him. She had not slept, at least not in any way Daniel recognized. Kelari did not sleep the way humans did. They entered light rest states while remaining aware of their surroundings. To her, the long hours of stillness were normal. Daniel sat up slowly and rubbed his eyes. He kept his movements controlled, careful not to surprise her. Good cycle, he said. Saria turned her head slightly. You speak as though the station has a morning. For humans it does, Daniel replied. It helps us stay focused. She nodded, as if filing that information away. You did not move in your rest, she said. No signs of distress. I'm trained not to, Daniel answered honestly. Saria walked closer, stopping at a respectful distance again. Her eyes searched his face. Many who claim discipline fail when they believe no one watches, she said. I assumed someone always was, Daniel replied. That earned him a long, thoughtful look. Shortly after, the door chimed. Daniel turned as it slid open. Two Kelari guards stood outside, their armor smooth and organic in design. Behind them was a tall Kelari male with silver markings across his shoulders, signifying authority. "Officer Daniel Cross," the male said, "you are requested for observation review." Daniel rose smoothly. "Understood." Saria stepped forward. "I will accompany him." The authority figure paused, then nodded once. As expected, they walked through the station corridors together. Humans and Kelari moved aside as they passed. Daniel felt eyes on him, curious, evaluating. Word had spread quickly. They entered a wide chamber with curved walls and a floor that shimmered faintly. In the center was a circular platform. Around it stood Kelari elders, their forms tall and still. Holographic symbols hovered in the air, recording everything. "This is not a trial," one elder said. "It is an assessment." Daniel inclined his head. "I understand." "You were placed in a situation designed to provoke instinct," another elder continued. "Explain your response." Daniel did not rush to speak. He took a breath. "I recognized that reacting emotionally would likely cause harm," he said, "to myself and to the Alliance. So I focused on respect and boundaries." "And desire?" an elder asked bluntly. Daniel met the elder's gaze. "Humans feel desire. We do not deny that, but we choose when to act on it." There was a quiet murmur among the elders. Saria watched closely. "You did not claim ownership of the space," an elder said. "You did not retreat." "I believed both actions would communicate the wrong message," Daniel replied. "And what message did you intend?" another asked. "That I was willing to share, not surrender," Daniel said. "And that I would not dominate." The elders were silent for a long moment. Finally, the first elder spoke again. "You will remain under observation." Daniel nodded. "As expected." The assessment did not end there. Over the next cycles, Daniel's routine changed. He was assigned joint duties with Kelari crews, repair missions, patrol coordination, emergency simulations. Each task was designed to test him in different ways. Saria stayed close, always watching, sometimes questioning. During a repair mission on the outer ring, a power conduit ruptured. Radiation alarms sounded. Kelari technicians froze. Their species evolved under stable environments. Sudden failures unsettled them deeply. Daniel moved instantly. He sealed the breach manually, exposing himself to controlled radiation levels, calculating risk in seconds. He guided the Kelari technicians step by step, his voice steady. When it was over, one technician collapsed from shock. Daniel supported him without hesitation. Later in the medical bay, Saria approached Daniel. "You placed yourself at risk," she said. "Yes," Daniel replied, "calculated risk. You could have ordered others." "I won't order someone to do what I wouldn't," he said. She studied him again, that same searching look. Another test followed soon after, a simulated pirate attack. Alarms blared. Lights flashed red. The station's defense systems were intentionally delayed. Kelari commanders hesitated, waiting for protocol confirmation. Daniel did not override them. Instead, he coordinated human and Kelari units together, translating commands, adjusting strategies in real time. The attack simulation ended with minimal losses. Afterward, a Kelari commander approached him. "You should have taken control," the commander said. "You had authority," Daniel shook his head. "Control builds resentment. Cooperation builds trust." That statement spread quickly among the observers. Not all reactions were positive. Some Kelari officers viewed Daniel with suspicion. Humans to them were unpredictable, dangerous in quiet ways. One cycle, Daniel and Saria were alone again in his quarters. The tests had slowed, but the observation had not ended. "You are changing their expectations," Saria said. "That wasn't my goal," Daniel replied. "But it is happening," she insisted. "Some fear it." "Fear isn't always bad," Daniel said. "It can mean growth." She turned to face him fully. "Tell me," she said, "why do humans seek the stars?" Daniel considered the question carefully. Because staying still means dying slowly, he said. We explore not because we are fearless, but because curiosity is stronger than fear. Saria absorbed that. There is another test, she said quietly. Daniel met her gaze. I suspected. This one will not be simulated. Before he could ask more, the station shuddered violently. Alarms screamed. Lights cut out, replaced by emergency glow. Daniel was on his feet instantly. What happened? He asked. Saria's expression was serious now. No ritual calm, no observer's distance. A real threat, she said. A faction opposed to the alliance has breached the outer defenses. Pirates? Daniel asked. Worse, she replied. They believe humans should be eliminated before trust is granted. The station rocked again. Somewhere, metal screamed as something tore through hull plating. Daniel grabbed his emergency gear. Then we don't have much time. They ran through corridors filled with smoke and panicked personnel. Kalari civilians clustered in fear. Human security units were stretched thin. A section collapsed ahead of them. Fire spilled into the hallway. Daniel didn't stop. He directed evacuation routes, carried injured Kalari, shielded others from falling debris. He acted without hesitation, without command, because someone had to. Saria followed closely, witnessing everything. At one point, a blast knocked Daniel off his feet. Pain exploded through his shoulder. He gritted his teeth and stood anyway. Your injury is severe, Saria said urgently. Later, Daniel replied. People first. They reached a control hub where attackers had disabled shielding. Daniel worked fast, hands flying over unfamiliar interfaces. He adapted, learning on the move. How do you know this system? Saria asked. I don't, he said, but logic is universal. The shield flickered, then surged back to life. The station stabilized. Hours later, the threat was neutralized. The attackers retreated or were captured. Damage was extensive, but lives were saved. Daniel sat on the floor near the control hub, exhausted. Blood soaked his sleeve. Saria knelt beside him. You were not ordered, she said softly. You were not tested, yet you acted. That's what humans do, Daniel replied weakly. Medical teams arrived and treated his injury. As he was carried away, Saria remained behind, watching. Back in the observation chamber, the Kalari elders reviewed the recordings. He risked himself without command, one said. He showed no desire to dominate, another added. He protected even those who doubted him, a third noted. Saria stood before them. You tested his restraint, she said. You tested his fear, his desire, his pride. He passed. The elders were silent. He has shown us something dangerous, one elder said at last. Hope, Saria replied. And that, more than anything, unsettled the galaxy. Daniel regained consciousness to the steady hum of medical equipment and soft white light. For a moment he thought he was still dreaming. His shoulder ached, but the pain was dull now, controlled. He took a slow breath and opened his eyes. He was in the station's medical wing. The room was clean and quiet. Transparent panels showed faint data streams tracking his condition. His arm was secured in a healing brace made of Kalari biomaterial, flexible and warm. He tried to move, then stopped when he felt resistance. You are awake. Daniel turned his head. Saria stood beside the bed. She looked different now. Not distant, not observing, something in her posture had softened. How long? Daniel asked. 2 rest cycles, she replied. Your injury was serious, but you heal quickly, faster than we predicted. Daniel gave a tired smile. We're stubborn like that. She studied him for a long moment. The elders are assembled, she said. They wish to speak with you, not as a subject of observation. As what? Daniel asked. As a representative of your species. That wiped the faint smile from his face. I didn't volunteer for that, he said quietly. Saria nodded. I know, that is why they trust you. Later, once Daniel could stand, they escorted him through the station. The corridors were different now. Kalari civilians no longer looked at him with pure curiosity or caution. Some inclined their heads. Others stepped aside respectfully. Daniel noticed. It made him uncomfortable. They entered the council chamber, larger than the observation hall. The floor was smooth and dark, reflecting light like still water. The elders stood in a wide circle. Humans were present too, including senior diplomats and military officers. All eyes turned toward Daniel. One of the elders stepped forward. "Human Daniel Cross," the elder said. "You were not sent here to lead, yet you have influenced outcomes beyond your station." Daniel kept his voice calm. "I only acted when needed." "That is leadership," the elder replied, "without hunger for control." Another elder spoke. "Our people have tested many species. Most failed in predictable ways, some through violence, others through desire for dominance." A third elder's voice carried across the chamber. "You failed differently." The room went very still. Daniel felt tension coil in his chest. "You failed," the elder continued, "to behave as expected." Saria's gaze remained fixed on the elders. "Explain," Daniel said. "You were meant to reveal weakness," the elder said. "Instead, you revealed choice. That is more dangerous than instinct." Murmurs spread among the council members. "Dangerous to whom?" Daniel asked. "To those who rely on control," the elder answered. Another elder stepped forward. "The attack on the station was not only an assault, it was a final test. We allowed it to unfold to observe your reaction." Human officers shifted uneasily. Daniel felt a flash of anger, sharp and brief. He breathed through it. "People could have died," he said. "Yes," the elder replied, "and they did not because of you." Daniel clenched his jaw. "That doesn't justify the risk." The elder inclined its head. "Agreed, which is why the test ends now." Silence fell again. Saria moved to stand beside Daniel. "The council must decide," she said, "whether humanity joins the core alliance as equal partners or remains outside it forever." All eyes turned to Daniel again. "I don't decide that," he said firmly. "That's for governments, councils, treaties." The elders' eyes glimmered. "We know, that is why we ask you only one thing." Daniel waited. "Speak," the elder said. "Not as a soldier, not as a diplomat, but as a human." Daniel swallowed. He looked around the chamber, at humans, at Kalari, at beings who had watched his every move, waiting for him to fail. He spoke simply. "We are not perfect," he said. "We argue, we fight, we make terrible mistakes, but we learn, slowly, painfully. We build rules because we know what happens without them." He paused. "We don't seek the stars to conquer them. We seek them to understand what we are by seeing what we are not." The chamber remained silent. Daniel continued. "Give humans power and some will misuse it. That's true. But judge us only by our worst and you will miss our best. Just as we would miss yours." He looked at the elders directly. "Trust isn't safe," he said, "but neither is isolation." The elders withdrew, forming a closed circle. Quiet discussion followed. Daniel could not hear their words, only see subtle shifts in posture and light. Minutes passed, then the circle opened. "The Kalari," the lead elder announced, "accept humanity into the core alliance, as equals, not because you are harmless." The elder's gaze rested on Daniel. "But because you are not." A wave of emotion moved through the chamber. Relief. Shock, hope. Saria exhaled slowly, as if releasing tension she had carried for many cycles. Later, after formalities and quiet celebration, Daniel returned to his quarters. The room looked the same as it always had. Simple. Ordered. Saria stood near the viewport again. "The bed is yours," she said. Daniel raised an eyebrow. "I thought that was settled." She turned, a faint smile touching her lips. "It was. This is not ritual." She moved toward the door. "I will be reassigned," she said. "My role as observer is complete." Daniel felt an unexpected weight in his chest. "Then this is goodbye, for now," she replied. "But humans and Kalari will work closely. Paths cross again." She paused at the door. "You changed us," she said quietly. Daniel shook his head. "I don't think so." "You did," she insisted. "You showed us strength without domination, confidence without conquest." She placed a hand over her chest in a Kalari gesture of respect. And you taught me, she added, that control is not the absence of feeling, but the decision to act with care. Then she left. Daniel sat on the edge of the bed and stared out at the planet below. Blue, green, alive, he thought of Earth, of humans arguing, dreaming, failing, trying again. The galaxy was vast and uncertain, but for the first time humanity would not face it alone. Not because they were feared, but because they were trusted. And that, Daniel knew, was the greatest victory of all.